That's the sound of drinks and movies, folks.
Did I time that perfectly?
Woo!
I was like, can I get the pop just at the right time? As soon as like the first thing.
Oh man, the sound effects of this show are so realistic. You'd think that we were opening actual beer bottles right now.
No, but we've got John's got his little beer bottle keyboard.
My little cue the beer sound effect. We are here, Drinks and Movies. We're doing a special through November and December, looking back and remembering some of the talented filmmakers, actors that we lost here in 2020. If you missed our Sean Connery retrospective last week, feel free to check through the playlist I've got going for Drinks and Movies, and you can find all these things. Tonight, we're talking about director-writer Joel Schumacher. We have episodes in the future for Ian Holm, and we're going to finish this all off with Kirk Douglas. So we got a lot of good stuff ahead as far as looking back at just the careers of some very talented individuals.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this.
I am. Well, as we were talking, in like, I feel like I love Sean Connery's movies, but Sean Connery's movies all kind of fit to a most degree, like in kind of a pattern of like his roles. Like you can kind of break them up. Joel Schumacher, it's like, man, just throw a movie at a wall and you'll find it'll stick for someone and it won't for someone else. So like I feel like the chat's gonna be like, how are you guys not going to talk about this? You're going to talk about this. Like, it's just going to be across the board. And I'm excited for it because it's such a diverse catalog.
Man, and it's like every genre, every section in a video store, if they still had video stores, would have a Joel Schumacher movie in it.
Yep.
It's so amazing.
So good.
Well, we got some tailgaters here hanging out early, so we're going to say hello to some friends. We got Ruben Guzman.
Back in his first place. Welcome.
Every time.
He's been sleeping for a while, so welcome back, Ruben. Way to be back in the first.
And then we got Robert the G-Spot Galvin mentioning a movie that I rewatched today, The Lost Boys. Boom. Todd Christian in the chat. Hello to you, good sir. Coach Vic, one of our original guests from this show.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get you back here again at some point, man. Got Jennifer, Comic Books Will Break Your Heart. You are here. You're ready. And Coach Vic dropped this comment that I giggled at when we were backstage. Based on last week's show and from what I'm seeing so far this week, I think I had a different movie upbringing than a lot of people. I think what you had is a diverse upbringing because I feel like every time I mention what we're doing on this show, you've got some great movie to recommend or some great comment to drop. So stay true to you. Stay Puff is here. Sean, how you doing? I know he's a big fan of this filmmaker. He even talked about what people often refer to as one of this filmmaker's worst movies. He did a whole show on Batman and Robin with Varangian Vigilante about a month ago. So he's here to hear us have some Batman hot takes at some point, I'm sure.
It'll be coming from you.
Glitter and duct tape. Hello, Crystal. How you doing? Good to see you. As always, in the description for the video, I got the links to the guests' channels and our co-host here, Bearded Comic Bro. Now, did you just cross over, 500, 400?
400. So, yeah. 400. Yeah. I think I'm at 414 or something now. So, yeah, it was cool. I was under 400 last week, and now we're here. So, but it was at like 417 this morning. God bless YouTube. It's like, 417. Up the loose two. Up before 7. Up, and now you lose it. Like, and just like
that is the way.
Just weeding out the bots.
Just when you think
I did nothing on Saturday to facilitate anyone going, he dropped a video I don't like now. I remember I need to subscribe.
Yeah. No, I was like, I think my pull list video is starting to get some traction. And then the newest issue is like a third of what it normal gets. It's like what happened? I don't know. That one just nobody liked that one.
Yeah, it's so funny. And like video I dropped last night, like shot up in views right away, and now it's like, all right, let's bring it back to your normal amount. Like,
yeah, right. So I'm sorry, it was Batman Forever, not Batman and Robin. Okay. I assumed it was Batman and Robin, just knowing Varangian Vigilante. Hello, House Till the End. Thank you coming by. And Gore Vidal, our real chat guest sponsor here. Thank you for coming by.
This show is brought to you by Gorvidal because it wouldn't have been without it.
It truly is for and brought to you by Gorvidal. So yeah, we're talking Joel Schumacher, and what I guess I got to say, like, so what was the first movie of his that you remember watching? Like, what was that first time you were watching one of his movies and going like, I remember seeing that. Like, I remember watching that.
Oh, so you just want to jump right into the hot takes right off the bat?
Oh, is that where we're gonna go? Okay, deep dive. We didn't talk about what we're drinking. Sorry, I'll save your hot take for a minute. We're supposed to have Joel from Joel the Geek joining us. He's having some tech issues with his computer. The link to his channel is down below. He's a hilarious, awesome community member. Does great cosplay. I love cruising by on Sundays when he's in the Geek Fort. Absolutely hilarious, doing his Mad Libs. So he should be joining us if he gets it up and running. So hope to see him soon here. But what are you drinking tonight, Greg?
So I've got a New Belgium. It is called a Tart-tastic. It is a lemon ginger sour. You know, if you've watched Drinks and Movies, I love some sour beers. So it's a little lighter on the sour, even though it says it's Tart-tastic. It's a lighter sour, but something I love. So, and nice. Then as always, I've got the bourbon as a backup to once the beer's gone to finish off the show with a little nightcap.
There you go. And I'm following your pattern, and I usually don't drink beer. I've been much better about it in the last 6 months or so. But tonight I'm going with a little Oktoberfest beer from Trader Joe's. Yes. The German style lager that they do this time of year. So I got one of those, and then like you're doing, I got the whiskey on ice just sitting over here, giant ice block in there. So it looks like a ton of whiskey, but it's just sort of around the outer edge.
Just a couple fingers, you're good.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. So cheers to you, and cheers to you in the chat.
You're here. Hopefully the chat, you have something to join in on Drinks and Movie. Whether beer, wine, water, pop. We don't care. I say pop because I'm Ohio. So
I follow the credo of Old Wolf that, hey, just get something to drink. Apple juice, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Although, what is it in Departed when he's drinking the cranberry juice? That doesn't go over so well in the Irish Gangster pub, but it does go well on this show.
Yeah. So if you're in an Irish Gangster pub watching this show, first off, don't drink cranberry. But second off, props to you for watching our show in a Gangster Irish pub. Like, let us know. I want to do a live stream from there next time. So
if they've got it on the big screen, I'm really excited. Wine tonight from Gore Vidal. Good. I hope you enjoy your wine tonight. So let's get back to my question. I think it's interesting sometimes to know where you might have first encountered a certain filmmaker. And Joel got his start writing, so it's possible your first experience with some of the movies he wrote before he started directing movies. But what was it for you?
For me, it was my first experience of where when I look at Joel Schumacher's movies and I say, which one did I see and like have a vivid experience of seeing in the theaters? And like, yes, this is my first exposure of like, not saying I probably didn't see maybe one or the other. It would be Batman Forever. Because so that was 95. So that was right. I mean, I was right at that prime age of being a Batman Forever fan. And as a kid, and being Batman and Robin, because I was 10, and Batman Forever came out, I was 10. I didn't get to see Batman Returns in the theater because my mom thought it was too grotesque, too violent for, 92? So I would have been a 7-year-old. So for all of you who hate the Batman Joel Schumacher movies, you can blame my mom because she's one of them that was like, hey, my kid's not going to go see this. That helped swing the studio. I want to say my mom helped swing the studio, so you guys can blame her. So take it up with my mom. With Batman Forever. But that was my first experience that I remember, like the McDonald's cups that they were hyping up. They had the frosted mugs that we went to all the McDonald's trying to get the frosted cool cut mugs, and I have them in a box somewhere. The posters, and it was just, I was my mom says my first word was Batman as a kid. So like my grandparents used to tape the 66 Batmans for me and would send them because we didn't have cable. So like that was my first exposure to Batman was Adam West. So when I was able to sit into the theater and see a live action Batman movie on the big screen, are you kidding me?
Yeah. All about it, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that was.
Now, this shows how much older I am than you, because I was legitimately working as an usher in a movie theater when Batman Forever came out. And I all summer long, I listened to that U2 song, Kiss Me, Kill Me, Something Thrill Me. Yeah.
Kiss Me, Kill Me. Sorry, YouTube, I don't want to get you banned, but.
So like, I that's how much older I was than you. I remember HBO running The Incredible Shrinking Woman with Lily Tomlin and Charles Grodin a ton. Okay. And I saw, that was one of his first directing gigs, was directing The Incredible Shrinking Woman with Lily Tomlin. And I thought that was freaking hilarious. I liked Lily Tomlin. I always thought Lily Tomlin was funny. And Charles Grodin with his midnight run, flat delivery stuff. I mean, he's just great. So I remember seeing that a ton, and never in chronological order. I'd always catch the end one week and the middle another week, and because it was old days, no VHS and no whatever, so I just would watch whatever you caught. So I remember seeing that a bunch. Of course, I saw Batman Forever a ton just by the fact that I was the usher and it only had 2 screens, and it was playing all summer long. So those were but then I had a friend that loved horror movies, and I would always go to his place and we'd rent a horror movie and we'd sleep over. So I probably broke a VHS of Lost Boys from watching it so much. I would be willing to bet that was. So it's hard to know. I did not know he did The Incredible Shrinking Woman. So the first time I became aware of him as a filmmaker was probably Lost Boys, when it was okay, this is a Joel Schumacher movie now. I know his name, and when I see his name, it's Lost. He's the Lost Boys guy,
right?
So that was me on there a bunch. Oh, Coach Vic says he remembers that on HBO too. Yeah.
Yep.
Something about I have not seen The Incredible Shrinking Woman since I was a pre-teenager. So I don't know if that movie holds up at all, but I remember enjoying it a ton.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I feel like it's one of those, I saw it on TV at one point and I didn't get a chance to ever revisit it.
Sure. Absolutely.
But
all right. Well, Joel's saying he's still having some tech issues, so he might not make it. So we're gonna trudge forth without him.
Okay.
I wanted to touch base on something that Coach Vic and I were talking a little bit about, and actually a couple other people mentioned to me on Instagram. So I read up a little bit on Joel. He started in fashion. He had a very traumatic upbringing, and sort of had to escape a very difficult family situation. He got into fashion design and then used that to bridge into fashion, in costuming in movies. And then he started writing movies, and his earliest movies were some odd comedies. His earliest movies were very unusual. So what you would, Joel, this tall, skinny, white, gay guy, he's writing these movies that you would not imagine he would write. So, Car Wash, which is hilarious, and if you've never seen Working at the Car Wash, it's a classic. It is hilarious. He wrote Car Wash. He wrote a movie called DC Cab, which I've never seen, so I'm sorry.
All right,
Coach Vic, I apologize now that I've not seen DC Cab, and he will talk about it
anywhere this week.
Yeah, Mr. T is in it. I know. You can pity this fool for not seeing it. And then he wrote The Wiz for Sidney Lumet. So he wrote these kind of I think Coach Vic even called them blaxploitation movies. But it was the end of the 70s, and he was writing these movies, and he got his name for making these early movies. Now, have you seen any of those movies before? The Wiz, Cab, Car Wash?
The Wiz and Car Wash were when I were young. When I was younger, I did see those, and there's so much that out there of trying to re-prep that I focus more on revisiting his director movies rather than what he did writing. But I did remember them early on. Yeah.
And he did Sparkle, which I have not seen either. His first written movie was Sparkle. And I read a little bit about it, but I never saw it. Crystal saying DC Cab is hilarious. And Coach Vic was telling me the same thing. He was hyping this movie a ton.
Well, it's going to go on my list. And if it ever goes streaming or it's at the library, I'll be the first to get it.
There it is. There it is. Stay puff. I will say, like, I legit remember watching Car Wash and laughing a ton. My brothers and I watched that movie a bunch and thought it was hilarious. George Carlin's got a little cameo in there. Isn't it the Pointer Sisters that have a cameo in there? I mean, this movie is bonkers hilarious. It was the Caddyshack of car washing movies. Like, that was their whole point, was just to do a day in the life of working in the car wash. I thought it was just a riot as a kid, and I remember my brothers and I watching that a ton, renting that from the video store a bunch. So if you haven't seen that one?
It's been a long time since I've seen that or The Wiz.
Yes, it did have Mr. T. Sparkle was remade in 2012. Yeah, he did the original. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that they even remade it. Yes, he did Car Wash. He wrote that. Yes, he did. Be ready for that. He didn't direct it, though. These are the movies he kind of wrote before he started directing. Like The Wiz is the other. And you said you saw Wiz?
Again, another one a long time as a kid. So.
Yeah, and I watched that as a kid, but I did not have the chance to rewatch it. But I remember enjoying,
right,
like The Incredible Shrinking Woman, Car Wash, and The Wiz when I was younger. I just haven't seen them at all since. Now, you said The Wiz was streaming somewhere?
One of my services. It was
through Hulu somewhere?
Either Hulu or HBO.
I don't remember seeing it anywhere else.
I'll tell you here and give me 2 seconds, and I'll let you know where I had it.
Twitter mentions that The Wiz was a fun one. I agree.
Stars. So I only have Stars for a couple more weeks. So I'll probably actually watch The Wiz since I do have it for a couple more weeks.
Gotcha.
I rented Stars to get access to a couple Connery movies last because I got like a free week trial or something. So that's all I do is like I do free. If I'm like, oh, there's some movies I want to watch, I'll do a free.
So DC Cab was in 1983, and that was the first time he wrote and directed a movie. It was right after he had finished The Incredible Shrinking Woman in 81. That was his first time directing a movie. And then he followed DC Cab with his like biggest early hit, which was St. Elmo's Fire. That was a movie that I was too young to really enjoy when it hit originally, because I was like 8. And my much older sister loves it. It's like one of her, for her, it's like Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire. They're all like 16 Candles. They're all right there in that same genre or era for her. And I watched it for the first time all the way through with her. And I just rewatched it yesterday for the first time in probably 10 years. Have you seen St. Elmo's Fire?
I hadn't until Sunday.
Oh,
now when I had started revisiting some Schumacher, but like when I knew we were doing it this week, I was like, all right, it's a streaming. It's the first one I'm watching, and I did.
So let's hear what Gore says, and then we'll hear what Greg says. St. Elmo's Fire and The Lost Boys were the ones for him. Only The Lost Boys is rewatchable. He says MTV overplayed that St. Elmo's Fire title song a little too much, and he directed Lily Tomlin's film. Yes, there you go. Yeah. So I'll give you my quick hot take on how that movie has aged for me, and then I'd love to hear your response.
Yeah.
So for me, the first thing that came to mind when I was about halfway through this rewatch of St. Elmo's Fire was, wow, they made a whole movie about white privilege. Like, oh my God. This is just rich white people and their drug habits. That's what this whole movie is. Alcoholism among rich white people.
It's pretty accurate. So I'll say this was the first time watching it for me. I don't remember watching it but it definitely, it had your Breakfast Club vibe because of the characters, the cast that they had in it. And so I was able to sit there and watch it. I think I was able to look at it from that standpoint of like, okay, this is, when was it? Late 80s?
85, 83?
85, okay, mid 80s.
85, yeah.
Okay. So I'm able to look at it from that time place to a degree. I don't know how you can describe Emilio Estevez in any way other than a total creep in this movie. I don't care if like this day and age, like, man, he's a creep. And look at that. We've never had it happen, John.
The first ever Drinks and Movies super chat bomb. And of course, it has a weed reference right there in the middle of it. Perry Comics. Thank you, brother. The show that you kind of helped start make happen, me talking about movies on my YouTube channel. And now look what's happened. You've started making all these followers. You're talking movies, and I'm here getting drunk on Saturday nights.
So we do.
Joel is here. Joel the Geek. I put the link to Joel's channel down below. He's a super awesome guy. One of the first people in this community that I talk to regularly. He was a local SoCal guy that we would talk a little bit about SoCal stuff, and then he's moved, I believe so. But I still follow him every Sunday in the Geek Fort. So
Mad Libs in the Geek Fort. Why would you not like? I was telling my wife, I was like, "Oh, I'm hopping on, Drinks and Movies. We got Joel hopping on." She's like, "Who's Joel?" I was like, "Remember the show we watch? He's in a blanket fort and he does Mad Libs on things." She goes, "Oh, I love Joel." So
Joel,
you guys watch stuff.
man.
It's great.
So awesome. My girls love it. Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, yeah. I mean, for me, he is a complete perv. The Emilio Estevez portion of this movie does not hold up.
Nope.
So St. Elmo's Fire, Emilio Estevez is interested in Andy McDowell's character, and he ends up basically stalking her and acting like a
schedule
person.
Yeah, like he memorizes her schedule.
He
tries, and like he pulls up to it, he can meet her there. Like, it just talk about a movie that doesn't age well. And like,
no, it doesn't.
I feel like anyone who, if you ever watch that movie, you're like, oh, Emilio Estevez was my favorite in that movie.
It wasn't. Then they're not talking about St. Elmo's Fire.
They're talking
about Young Guns.
Yes, or Mighty Ducks.
Right. It wasn't one of the best from the era. Less Than Zero is an amazing movie. I totally recommend that. Again, similar, and I think Breakfast Club holds up a lot better.
Yeah.
I think pretty much any of those early John Cusack, Better Off Dead movies hold up a lot better. I think there are parts of it that I love.
Yes.
I love the ending. I love the way it kind of builds to the end where they're trying to break in and help Demi Moore's character. I like the speech. I like the redemption sort of story that Rob Lowe goes through, even though he's a complete douche the whole time. I love Andrew McCarthy in this movie. Andrew McCarthy is phenomenal in this movie.
And he's probably one of the only characters that you probably can realistically like.
Absolutely. And he might turn in the best and most subtle performance in the whole movie.
Well, I think it is. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was one of his earlier movies too. This was before it is known as wooing. Don't get John started on Say Anything. Like,
well, at least he didn't chase her to her vacation spot and pound the door in and whatever.
It was like talking to her roommate. Where's he at? She's at a vacation spot with someone. Cool. I'm gonna drive up in a blizzard.
Well, and then he says something to the roommate
win her over.
He says something to the roommate like, "If you don't tell me, I'm not responsible for what I do to you." And I'm like, "Whoa, buddy, whoa! Now you're threatening violence to get the girl."
Yeah.
No.
And Joel made a point in the chat, like, they confront each other on so much else. Like, none of the other people were like, hey, this is a little creepy.
Pump the brakes, buddy.
Like, slow. Like, I feel like if you go to any college dorm room and you're like, hey, guys, I met this girl. I met her. I followed her schedule. Like, she's going to be here. Like, I feel like I would hope 95% of the people like, hey, dude, that's going to come off as a little creepy.
Right? I like people saying that it's like friends with cocaine. rich white people and their problems, but they traded coffee for cocaine. That's basically the movie.
But to go to your point, Andrew, I think was a standout of the film for me because he was, I think, and I could be wrong on my dates, but I feel like he was a lesser known at that time compared to the other names. And I think so they wrote his character to be more subtle.
Yeah.
And I think it really did his character well because they're over the top. Judd Nelson's character also is a scummy dude. And
his anger issues are legit.
Right. And it's just he's one of the ones that I feel like you can relate to. Or at least you're okay, he's in love with his best friend's girl. Okay, that's a real, and he doesn't act on it. That's so.
And he does basically the honorable thing all through the movie.
Yep.
I think he tries to be honest and as straightforward and hold his emotions in check when it's this is not the right time.
Right.
And I think, that all those things, plus I think Andrew McCarthy was always just a genuinely likable guy. He just felt like the nice guy in a lot of movies, Pretty in Pink or whatever. He just always came across as somebody that had something in him that you appreciated. And I saw Gore mentioning James Spader from that same era, from Pretty in Pink and Less Than Zero, was the Christopher Walken of his era. There you go. I'm not sure what Old was trying to say, but he's been drinking and eating hot wings. I don't know. He could be completely derailing at this point. We don't know.
Maybe his chat's maybe his mouth still burns. So he's trying to chat like he's speaking right now. His lips are burnt.
All right. Well, so now this brings me to I watched 3 Joel Schumachers in 2 days. And
rookie numbers. Those are rookie numbers.
Well, I didn't have a ton of time the last 2 days.
I'm just messing.
The truth is I didn't watch hardly any the week before. So I pounded it all in here in the weekend. But I saved one for last because I knew that I loved it. And I was worried it had aged poorly because it had been a few years since I saw it. It is there it is. It's full of scummy dudes. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. That's definitely the state of it.
So if a guy if a guy tells you that St. Elmo's Fire is his favorite movie from the 80s, stay away from him. Or guys, stay away from him. It doesn't matter if you don't want to be friends with them.
I will say one of the other bits that I know that Mayor Winningham doesn't have a great role in that film, but the bit when she talks about her peanut butter and jelly sandwich is one of my all-time favorite scenes, and she just freaking nails that moment when she's just saying I've got my own place, and she's finally being her own self a little bit.
Yeah. And
she nails that scene. That's a great scene.
That she does.
It's funny. I watched almost all of John Carpenter's films in a week before we did the show on Friday. Then boom, there you go. You put in the time. I'm not that dedicated.
Someone's got to keep the show afloat.
So the movie I spent time rewatching today and the saved for last, I think I'm willing to legitimately say that my favorite vampire movie is Lost Boys, because that movie, but throw in your topless, sweaty saxophone player. It doesn't matter to me. I freaking love Lost Boys.
That's all I could think of during that YouTube video, the sexy saxophone man.
I mean, he looks like that guy looks like he should be playing right next to the flamethrower guitar guy from Mad Max Fury Road.
They should form a band.
Right, those two guys together. I think it's gold. It's a gold record.
A horroristic movie ska band.
Right? I'm down for this. I want somebody to splice those two together. Better than Twilight. So now I will say I am a little biased in the sense that it was shot somewhat near me in Santa Cruz, where my brother went to college, and it is the town is legit like it is in the movie, elements of the way they did it, except that it's not the murder capital of the world. I love the cast. I think is phenomenal. Jason Patrick and Kiefer Sutherland are phenomenal. Even Jamie, is it Gertz? Amazing. Love her in this. And then of course you got both Coreys, and they're both going.
Isn't this their first one where both the Coreys made their appearance?
It's so good. It's so good. And I rewatched it, and the whole time I'm thinking, okay, maybe I feel good about the fact that I feel like this is my favorite vampire movie. So have you seen it? How do you feel about it?
So Lost Boys is one that I knew I watched for a while. See, I'm not a, you know me on the show, I'm not a huge horror guy. Like, this is just not my genre. But I did rewatch Lost Boys.
There you go.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, I was remembering things. I'm like, oh yeah, this is. And for me, as someone who loves movies, whenever comic books can take a prominent place in movies,
dude, this movie works because of all the comic book nerddom that's in here, right? There's a huge chunk of comic book nerddom.
Like when Corey 1 comes in and he's in the shop the first time, he's like, why do they have this here? Superman goes here. This one comes out before this first appearance, and that's where I was like, oh yeah, he would be on a YouTube show where I'd be like, yeah, they know more than I do. And and Chaos commented that he doesn't really consider it a horror movie, which is probably why I enjoy it. Like, I don't
know that matters at all. I'm saying it's just the best vampire movie. Horror, action, comedy. You could throw in Vampire in Brooklyn, Coach Vic. You do it. I'm saying I put Lost Boys up there with all of them, and I would say I would watch it ahead of almost. I think anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to. I don't know if I can make that definitive claim, but it would be up there. I'd have to think about it.
Joel said that scene made him feel like he was heard and seen as a comic book geek.
Right.
And comic books prove to be like a resource that saves lives in this movie.
So this is our takeaway from our show, people. Comic books save lives.
These are facts proven by Joel Schumacher himself. Like Interview of the Vampires. I'm not hating on Near Dark or Interview of the Vampire, or was it The Hunger I saw, Vampire in Brooklyn. Not hating on any of these. I'm just saying I'm loving me, and having rewatched it now, I will say there's some scary, freaky, cool, bloody sequences that still hold up because they weren't using cheap effects. They were using camera effects, making the camera into the flying vampire, very Sam Raimi style. Right? I dig that a ton.
It doesn't, because it doesn't come off as hokey, in my opinion, of like, oh, that's cheap flying effects, because it illustrates the points. And I think, like, we've talked a lot about movies like that we've liked so far, but we actually haven't talked about Joel, like, directing wise of the movies. And I think that is one of those decisions that is really, and might not have been his. I don't know all the ins and outs of how to direct movies and things like that, but I thought that's something that is really good because it holds up. Like, you don't have to go back there and go, oh, that's cheap effects.
Hard to forgive Lost Boys for the Doors the cover version of Strangers, right? Hello, Wednesday pull list. Good to see you in here.
You want to bring up music, though, man. You say what you will, but Joel Schumacher movies always had banging soundtracks. That Lost Boys, Batman Forever,
and they knew how to use a saxophone.
Yes.
I will never get over that saxophone guy. He's hilarious. Just like Rob Lowe in St. Elmo's. You got the Rob Lowe. Let's have more sexy sax players is what we need.
You know what? I didn't realize it. I realized that Joel Schumacher was a huge fan of Kiefer Sutherland in my rewatch this week. And I watched both movies with the sexy saxophone guy, and I didn't realize it.
I remember seeing it as a kid and being like, that's not like, I've seen like people on stage performing in concerts. I've never seen anybody act like these guys.
Yeah. Well, I noticed last night during the vampire movie because it felt weird, but I forgot that Rob Lowe also was shirtless saxophone in it.
He was doing it. He was doing it, man. We mentioned that, Joel, at the beginning, that Joel Schumacher has this very diverse filmography. From his writing now into these 80s movies, moving from comedy into now something like a horror action. Definitely some unusual stuff. Z sent you over here. Well, Agu, we appreciate it, man. We're talking about late great filmmaker Joel Schumacher. We're into his mid-80s hit, specifically The Lost Boys, and what a phenomenal movie that is. Because I feel like I could talk Lost Boys all night.
Can I just say one thing that doesn't hold up for me? I can't stand Corey's voice that he does in this movie. I can't.
Haim or Feldman?
Feldman.
Okay, yeah, I figured as much.
He sounds like what's the kid's name in Little Rascals? Is it Frog? Like, hey guys,
he's trying to add a little something to his voice.
You know, girls aren't allowed. It was the He-Man Woman Haters Club. We're gonna kill some vampires. I get it. He's a kid actor, but I'm like in that. But I'm like, oh. And then I went down a rabbit hole. I watched the trailers for because I was like, I'm not gonna waste any time of actually watching the movies, the sequels to Lost Boy.
Okay.
But I watched the trailers, and he does that same thing throughout the one in like the late 90s, and then the one he just did with the other brother came back for that one. The original, and he's still doing it. Only the Frogger boys can do that. It's just like, man, it doesn't hold up. But that's
well, I'm curious if you noticed Bill S. Preston Esquire in there.
Of course, Marco. Absolutely. And because I looked at it, that's one of his earlier movies before he got into Bill and Ted.
If you've seen Bill and Ted, Bill, obviously, Keanu is not in this movie, but Bill is in this movie. I think it's Alex something. I can't remember his name. Alex Winter. Alex
Winter.
He plays one of the vampires hanging with Kiefer Sutherland, and this is one of his early breaks. Hello, Sam Nation. Good morning to you. Yeah, there he is. Boom.
Alex Winter. Yep. And he didn't get a lot of screen time.
But he's the only vampire they kill before the big.
In the cave.
The opener of this movie is almost entirely the big finale for me. Like the big fight at the house at the end is like the big portion of this movie, and the only vampire that dies before that is Alex. They shank him in his sleep, like in prison, like in the prison. They prison style him.
And lo and behold, they knew they were doing that to Bill. That wouldn't have happened.
Man, they could have destroyed the future with that move.
I want Bill and Ted 4 because they can do it if they did a 3. And just I want them to go. I want it to be so meta that they go and they just make changes in their own movies. And like Keanu Reeves and Alex Winters just change and save stuff in their movie. Like, oh, John Wick, he can go save his dog at the very beginning of the movie. Like, I know I'm the only person that wants it. It sounds like a horrible movie, but
man,
Rome.
That's hilarious. Hello, Iwick. Hello, how good to see you in here, man. And I thought I saw somebody else. Everybody's saying hi to everybody. They made a bunch of sequels, to Lost Boys. I mean, I've seen none of them.
I watched the trailer, and that was plenty.
Yeah, they're streaming, I think, either on the HBO Max or on the Hulu. I saw them on there somewhere.
Did you just call it on the Hulu?
On the Hulu machine.
Get that on the interwebs? Well, I think since we're talking Lost Boys, one of his next movies that I did revisit, we're talking Kiefer Sutherland.
Let's get into the 90s now. Yeah, let's
the 90s going. Flatliners.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? I'm sure you've seen Flatliners.
I saw Flatliners in the theaters, and then in the theater things, and then I saw, of course, on videotape after that because it was like a huge cast, and the concept was like shocking. The idea was very shocking at the time, and yeah, everybody, Julia Roberts and Kiefer Sutherland in a movie, like, let's just go.
What's his? He's also in a couple other what's his name?
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon, not Kevin Bacon. The
Oliver Platt, William Baldwin.
Platt. I can't think of Oliver Platt name. I was gonna say the portly gentleman.
The movie was very shocking at the time, just for like assisted suicide, actual suicide. Like there were several layers deep on some of these things. So what did you think? So this is your first watch? What was it?
It's one of those, I know I had watched it again, but I rewatched it recently. I mean, I rewatched it this week. I did not. I looked at Cousins. I was like, it doesn't look like it's going to be one for me. Yeah, Billy Baldwin. Yep, my boy was in that one too.
So then, what are we thoughts?
I thought I went in with kind of like, I don't know if this is going to hold up well. I don't think it did bad though. Like how they do it, how they flatline is believable. And I'm not a doctor. I'm like, but I don't. You don't have to know that. For me, I'm like, oh, okay, that's sure. Make them go. Okay, flatline for 2 minutes, and they can just shoot you up here if you freeze your body. Like, okay, then okay, sure. Like they sold it, whether it's medically like not accurate. I don't care. The actors, Joel got the actors to say, hey, this is how we're gonna do it, and they made it believable. So I appreciated that. Like, it didn't come off of like this bonkers banana, like, y'all don't even believe what you're doing here. Like, and so that's a testament to the director. I think that's a testament to the actors that they actually made it like someone who's, I'm sure it's not accurate at all. And that's not so don't try and follow what they do, gang. Like, but it holds up well. My biggest complaint with that is I wanted to see more of the realm of when they were flatlining.
Gotcha.
But that's just a personal, that was just a personal thing. Like, I love the look, the set of like how it was in a,
the way they did, because again, this was pre-digital effects. It was a lot of like camera tricks and photography stuff that they did to make it look the other side or whatever they want to call it.
But like when, but this is like, and as we're talking, I didn't even think about this looking. We talked about Joel Schumacher having the vampires flying in from the shot, like how it works out really well. You have Kiefer Sutherland when he's in the cab with the, and he's hiding from the boy in the image, kind of thing. Again, this is a movie from 1990. If we talk spoilers in here all the time on our movie review, so if you haven't seen Flatliners by then, sorry. But when he's, when he has that, the little boy, the shot is from the ground of like a little boy like scampering along, and like those are some effects that make it look like it adds that kind of like spooky, creepy element to it without it cheesy, in my opinion. And when you have a cast like Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, Oliver Platt, and Kiefer Sutherland, even Billy Baldwin, like he does a great job in this. Like, and I know the Baldwin brothers get knocked on a lot for their other movie choices, but
no, I think this is one of his better movies. Absolutely. Yep. And I think, I haven't seen it in probably a decade, but I absolutely enjoyed it every time I saw it. Yep. And I thought the twists were really interesting. I even think, I want to say just a handful of years ago, they did a sequel. I think it was just called Flatliners as well. I can double check.
I think they remade it with Ellen Page. It was they made it in like 2019. It was maybe it was a sequel.
Because Kiefer's in it.
He's in it as he does a cameo as a doctor, not a prominent role.
He's not playing the same part?
He could be. I don't know. I only know about it because I was looking at Kiefer Sutherland's filmography, trying to see how many movies he had with Joel Schumacher. Because as I'm watching, I go, oh, that's him again. Okay, Kiefer. Okay, that's you. But I mean, it was a pretty recent movie.
So it sounds like people did not like it. So I never.
Everyone says it's doo-doo. So
there you go. All right, good to know.
So don't waste your time.
So the 90s were really big for Schumacher. He had basically a movie every single year almost. And some of them just banger hits, like huge movies. I want to mention one of the darker ones he did. Did you see Falling Down?
I did. I just did. And this is, I will tell you, I wish I could do more of this. I went in, I didn't watch a trailer. I couldn't have told you what it was about from the get-go. I don't know if I could have told you what it was about for the first 20 minutes. It is like, where are we? So I had no idea going into what to expect. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's flaws in it, like I would have with other, but it was up there as one that I really did enjoy of his movies. And I think again, the shooting of in the beginning in the car with the fly, the people shouting in the car, like just to kind of see like Michael Douglas's character as he's trying to process everything that he's going through. That there's issues going on. And I think it does a great job of does it go to the full extent of like, okay, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole, and it just like, okay, I trade from a baseball bat, like he upgrades his weapon arsenal like every scene,
Yeah.
to where we get to a bazooka, and we're like, oh, like I get it, like, but it almost works because of how he goes through the day and how they process it, and him as a character. So I think if Michael Douglas does a phenomenal job in this movie, and he carries it from that aspect.
So yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I saw it, it was hard hitting. I mean, it was like powerful look at depression, frustration, anger management, so many mental challenges, and then societal pressures and expectations. The sequence in the McDonald's when he's like, this burger doesn't look like the picture. Like, what the heck? Like, it's so relatable and painful. And at times you want to laugh, but you almost want to cry. Like, it is intense. And Duvall's character, the way they sort of bring Duvall through the story to follow what Douglas is doing. It's a real powerful ride.
Yeah. And I mean, how many of us too have been to a fast food restaurant where it's like, I want a breakfast sandwich. And like, oh, it's 2 minutes past. Come on, you have these stuff there. Make it.
Yeah.
Come
right.
On.
It's right there. We're people. It's right there. Like, you could just do it. Like,
do it. Don't be that person. Like, so, but it is. I think it's a good. He does a good illustration of just like and that's what you see in his other movies that we haven't, used. I know we knocked on St. Elmo's Fire a little bit, but say it as you will of the white privilege, but it's still like the struggles that they're going through, whether they put it on themselves or not, it still is an interesting take. Like, his movies are very character based for like that. I think of how do you go through different issues. And I think like the societal pressures, like that you see of Michael Douglas of, where he's talking about his character of, where he's talking about, what he does for his job as the defense is like, I'm trying to actually save people, and like they making so much more money than me. Like, and I'm the one trying, like, creating stuff I forget who he's comparing himself to.
But the idea of like, where do we put our money in a civilization? Right.
Yes.
Where do we define success?
Right.
That music singer in her underwear, or the gentleman standing with a rifle protecting you. Like there's layers of meaning, and the movie asks a ton of powerful questions.
Yeah. And Robert Duvall's character of just, what it's like to go through, being in the, a police officer or something, where he seems like he is I'm going to do my job. I'm going to, I'm, kind of a good old boy kind of mindset. And just like, it's his last day, and how much crap he gets from people for like, the guy's like, I don't trust you because you don't cuss. Like, really? Like, but like, it shows just the other aspects, I think, of societal flaws for people too, of how we place judgments on people because of how someone acts without even getting to know them and something like that. And you see those, kind of characteristics pop up a lot in Joel's movies. And, I don't know if that comes from, like you said, his background of, he had a rough childhood, rough kind of earlier bringing up of like where that kind of plays into his writing and his directing abilities.
I think he definitely liked to ask questions in his movies. I think he liked to push buttons a little bit with his movies. And he liked characters that were a little bit on the fringe of life. And I think all of those things, make for compelling watches. Do they make for necessarily the most relatable? Not necessarily, maybe. But I think they make for compelling movies, if nothing else. Falling Down, like watching Bearded open his first AOK.
Oh, he's... he said it's one of his favorites.
Social commentary and realistic characters. There you go. Boom. And I do agree, it was definitely in the tradition of Network and Dog Day.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So now for me, I feel like over the next like 6 movies he was involved with, I feel like you have 2 pairs of movies that are really important to talk about.
Yes.
And I want to do the legal films first. So Schumacher was involved with 2, in my opinion, of the best adaptations of John Grisham's novels.
Yep.
John Grisham, the lawyer turned novelist, who wrote a lot of books about the legal profession. And 2 of his most successful early novels, The Client, and then later his original first novel, A Time to Kill, became movies that Joel adapted. And I think they are, to this day, still 2 of the best ones that have been made.
I agree. Both were ones I got to rewatch. You asked me at the beginning of the show what was some of my first experience. If it wasn't Batman Forever, it was The Client and A Time to Kill, which now at rewatching them, I'm like, really, Dad? Like, these are the ones you let me watch? Because my dad's the guy that if you don't know what to get him for Christmas or his birthday, does John Grisham have a new novel out yet? My dad doesn't buy it, but if you give it to him, he'll read it and he'll love it. So right. I'll text him, does Dad have a new John Grisham novel? No? Okay, cool. And he writes a book like every year, so it works out really well. And if he gets 2, makes birthdays and holidays really easy. Because of that, I remember watching The Client as a kid, not as much Time to Kill. So that was probably smart on my parents on that one. To not watch that one. But The Client, I think, was interesting rewatching this because you had this was the first Brad Renfro, I think it was Renfro, right? The child actor. Mm-hmm. It was his first movie. It was before he did his Huck and Finn with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I will tell you this. A director will have my praise if they can make a movie with a child actor as one of the main leads and it's not an annoying film, because I feel like that's such a hard dynamic to get. How to make a kid relatable or enjoyable to watch, because and get that acting out of them. And so, because those are usually, you're like, oh yeah, the kid was corny. Yeah, sure, for the 90s, it was probably, if you're watching it now, you might be going, oh, a little bit like the tough kid. Yeah, I get it. But I think in that time, he does a really good job from that.
Absolutely. And everybody was saying at the time, he's going to be the next huge actor, which I think obviously drugs and alcohol, things imploded on that guy for sure. But I think you're totally right on directing kids. I think it's super rare. I think usually what you end up with is either the kid who acts way too immature for a kid, or the kid that acts like an adult for the whole movie and it doesn't make sense. It's hard to find that niche, right? That middle ground. I think people like Spielberg, who's done it for his whole career. I mean, You look at E.T., you look at Empire of the Sun with Christian Bale. He's had several examples of being able to take children and make them look totally believable on screen. Yeah. And this is an example of that for me.
It is, because you get that
perfect.
You don't go like, oh, the kid's smart mouthing about he gets threatened in the elevator. Okay, he keeps his mouth shut. He hides stuff from his lawyer, and because of that, because he's afraid for his mother. And man, I'll tell you, Joel Schumacher's films too. The cast that he gets. This is another one. Tommy Lee Jones. I'm blanking on the main female lead.
Well, certainly Susan Sarandon.
Oh,
Mary Louise Parker, Anthony LaPaglia, Ossie Davis, Anthony Edwards.
I
always felt like he had these ensemble casts where actors in the background, everybody who came in and spoke, you're like, oh, I know that actor.
Yep.
William H. Macy comes through it. He's got some little cameo in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's William H. Macy's a doctor that is in the background, and you're like, whoa, wait, really? And there's another one.
He generally worked with a lot of the same actors again, so you might see an actor in a small cameo in one movie and then they're in another. Obviously, Tommy Lee Jones is showing up in a couple of movies, and Jim Carrey later shows up in a couple of movies. I think he generally made connections with people, and then they enjoyed that work experience. That's at least what I would gather.
Was Bill Paxton? Wasn't he the cop at the very beginning with the boy?
Yes.
Another one these and I get it too. Probably the time you're like, that's one of my favorite things about watching some of these movies from like the 94, 95 era. Like some of these are like huge star. I'm like, holy cow! Like you were in this little teeny role here, and
Exactly. So for me, like I love The Client. I thought it was a really good adaptation. I had read the book before I saw the movie, and I thought it was a really successful adaptation. But for me, I agree with Stay Puft. Like A Time to Kill is amazing, and I think that is a movie that could have easily been a flop. Like you read that book, there are so many characters and so many side plots and so many things going on and so many elements to keep track of. That movie could have been an absolute shit show.
Yep.
And I think somehow Schumacher and the writers were able to just streamline that story and get a cast who all have great little moments in the film. Kiefer Sutherland gets another Schumacher performance.
Yep.
Sandra Bullock has a great little performance. Matthew McConaughey becomes a star.
Oliver Platt's in it, another Joel Schumacher movie.
Kevin Spacey's got a great part in this.
Samuel L. Jackson, obviously. Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland. Yeah, I forgot. Donald and Kiefer both in it. It's just one of those wow.
The Chris Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chris Cooper. I just felt like the film was expertly put together, and both movies were written by Akiva Goldsman, who is an Academy Award-winning writer, absolutely supremely talented guy. He wrote A Beautiful Mind. He did the Da Vinci Code adaptation, but he worked on a lot of the films with Joel. So he worked on Batman Forever. He worked on Batman and Robin. And he worked on both of these adaptations as well.
Right.
Just a supremely talented guy. And I think he just had a knack, and clearly he and Joel were on the same level, like could communicate.
Yeah.
I could hear that, Joel, that some people think that he was doing an update or a modernization of A Time to Kill, or of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
I think everything is more face value. I think To Kill a Mockingbird had things, because it was a kid's perspective, I think things were more layered. It was more subtle. Whereas A Time to Kill it slaps you in the face. It is a hard, painful movie to watch. And it doesn't necessarily have the same happy ending that I think Kill a Mockingbird has.
Right. This is one of those movies where it's a powerful movie, and like people should watch it because of it holds up with, what we've been going through even in society this past year. Like there's, but it is a hard one to watch. Like I was rewatching it this week, and from now as a perspective of as a father of two daughters, I had to pause the movie for a second, just like, okay, just like.
Now you said you saw it when you were young, so this is the first time in a while that you'd watched it.
This is my first time. This is definitely my first time revisiting now as a father, which is always interesting watching movies with a different lens, because I know I saw it younger, and it's sad to say, I probably didn't understand the gravitas of the situation that transpired. Probably it's probably for my benefit that I didn't understand, because I know I saw it as a teen, so I probably didn't grasp of the hugeness of the situation. But man, it is a tough one to watch, and it's not easy.
No.
Doesn't get easier throughout the movie. And but yeah, it is one of his better directed better movies through and through.
Absolutely. I would put it up there with his best films for sure.
Yep.
I'm a big Lost Boys fan, so everything's going to be right there compared to Lost Boys. But yeah, especially now rewatching it, I'm like, yes. But I have not seen A Time to Kill in probably 8 years or so.
So that's on HBO Max. But
oh, nice. Okay, good.
So I doubt it'll still be there when you rent it. When you get HBO Max, finally watch the Snyder Cut, because I know you can't wait for that.
I have HBO Max. The problem is HBO Max does not have their deal with Roku.
Oh,
So I can only watch it on devices at this point. And I finally, because of this show, I figured out how I can use my iPad or my iPhone and like Apple AirPlay my movie onto my TV. So now that's how my girls and I watched what we're going to talk about next today together. So if you feel like you're done with that, I think the chat feels ready for.
We gave you a taste. We gave you a little teaser.
Sorry, I gotta move my head for his Batman movies, because he had two big Batman films Joel Schumacher made in the same time that he was making The Client and Time to Kill. Interspersed with those, he made Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and I Apple AirPlayed Batman Forever for my girls today. And I'm gonna just say straight off the bat, holy buckets, that movie holds up real well for me. I am a big Batman Forever fan, and I was worried I was going to rewatch and be like, God, this movie's lame, whatever. And I legitimately enjoyed it, and my appreciation of Val Kilmer Batman went way through the roof.
You spoke to my soul right there, John. Like, I feel bad. Like, I disappointed the chat. Like, I was gonna have all my Batman Forever pops, my Batman Forever comic. I have my Batman Forever VHS. I've got my Batman shrine over there, and I was doing another show before this. I didn't have time to hop over, but I mean, I've got my Batman Forever print that killed over there. Like, I get it. I look at this one 100% from nostalgia. But I think it does hold up from that aspect too. The characters that they have, what I always feel like I love too is about these movies. I love the Nolan trilogy, but what the Nolan trilogy does that I don't like compared to Burton and Schumacher is Gotham City feels like a huge just city. Like, it feels like a character in and of itself. Nolan's Batman Gotham City is, that's Pittsburgh, that's Chicago. Like and I mean, obviously you know that because you can see where they shot it, and you know this. Sure. But like, they're a character, like so Burton's was the more gothic kind of, and where Schumacher's was hey, I'm going to add bright colors because that's what Schumacher does, right?
But he got rid of the saxophone, and then he had the drummers,
right? He got rid of the saxophone, and we're going to pair up now the big bongo drummers that they have in Batman Forever with.
I feel like it was the siblings to the guy from Lost Boys for sure.
Yes. What if it is one of the guys from? What if the saxophone guy is the drummer?
Thank you, Joel, recommending. Yeah, and I went through Amazon Prime for Lost Boys for sure. Yeah, I think that I did not rewatch Batman and Robin. And I don't know that I'm psychologically prepared for that.
It's, if you see me glancing up, I might have it just muted on the background behind my computer on the screen, just so it can
playing right now.
Oh, you think I'm kidding, son? Chris O'Donnell and Bruce Wayne are having a heart-to-heart right now.
Oh wow,
George Clooney and
your poor wife.
Poison Ivy just got to. Chris O'Donnell's heart, and what are you?
Yeah, I think the destruction of Poison Ivy and Batgirl are like two of the reasons why I legitimately hate that movie.
Yeah, again, I know. I mean, people talk about Schumacher's Batmans and they lump them together.
Yes.
I can look at Batman and Robin and say it's not a good movie. Where I would say even with my nostalgia glasses, I'm going to say Batman Forever holds up as a good Batman movie. Batman Forever does. Again, 1997. I'm 12. Like, I grew up on 1966 Batman. So like, this is the Batman for me. And that's what's, this is what you have is like, it just is the interesting dynamic that you have of films. of how the pendulum swings in comics, especially because you had the Batman, the 1966 Batman. You know, everyone's like, oh, it's too campy, it's too over the top, and then they bring in, you know, Neil Adams to do, you know, the comics in the 70s to make it that darker route. You know, Tim Burton's darker. You know, and you have, you know, and what's crazy about Burton too is he was going to make a third Batman movie. He doesn't do sequels at that time. Like, he wasn't going to do sequels, and he was ready to do another sequel. And you know, maybe it's better that he didn't, because he was going to have Marlon Wayans be Robin.
Yeah.
Like, Marlon Wayans still gets residual checks because of his contract that he was going to have with the be.
So they're going to replace O'Donnell with Marlon?
No. So Burton's third Batman was going to be when instead they brought in Schumacher to replace Burton, obviously,
right?
Because of the toy sales weren't there.
Gotcha.
So the toy sales weren't there, but Burton was already working on a third Batman, getting ready for a third Batman before Schumacher took over,
right?
Because the studio wanted that lighter. He had Marlon Wayans and Marlon Wayans still gets residuals for being cast as Robin.
Like they replaced Marlon with O'Donnell.
Yeah. Basically, when they switched casting, you know, but they originally Burton had talked with Robin Williams about being Joker originally.
I remember hearing that a bunch of
yeah. He was like, they wanted him as Riddler, and so like there were some character roles that were still there that were in place, but then when Schumacher came in, so we didn't get Burton. We didn't get Burton's third Batman. We didn't get Schumacher's third Batman either, which was going to be buck wild too.
Oh man,
I followed down a rabbit hole. I think I even sent you these scripts of like what all there's some podcasts of like what movies that were going to come out, but Schumacher's third Batman was going to be Scarecrow and Harley Quinn, but Harley Quinn was the Joker's daughter, Harley Quinn, and she was a toy maker, and they were going to connect with like Scarecrow hated Batman, Harley Quinn hated Bruce Wayne because of stuff. They were going to pair up that way, but basically he was going to get Batman into Arkham Asylum and bring back all the past villains. So your Jack Nicholson, your Danny DeVito, and that was how they were going to keep the Batmans in continuity, which was going to be but the studio
Joker freaking died. How do you make that work?
It was going to be a courtroom scene. It was like, you ever see the animated series where they do the courtroom scene of all the villains?
Yeah.
It was going to be a psychosis in Arkham Asylum that he was going, like, so they were just showing that continuity of like, and when the studio saw how bad Batman and Robin did, which didn't really, I mean, it still made money, which is crazy, but how the reaction.
And Glitter loved it.
The reaction. And then they saw the price tag that was going to get Nicholson and all those people. Like, they're like, nope.
Joel says, here's a weird thought. What if they let Schumacher play around with other DC movie characters?
Ooh.
Exciting. Sean obviously is a big Batman Forever fan, and he said his issue is with some of the villains over the top. And I will say I watched it with my daughters, and that was their main critique too. They felt like they made all the villains act like the Joker. And I legit feel like that is a fair comment to make. My girls grew up or are growing up watching the animated series, and the Riddler in the animated series versus Jim Carrey's Riddler are very different. And my girls were like, that's not the Riddler. That was their comment over and over again was, it's not the Riddler. Like he's not acting like the Riddler. Versus for me, I can get the Two-Face. I kind of get the Two-Face. I'm okay with Two-Face. The Riddler bothers me more. But that's really the only thing that bothers me. I really do enjoy Forever. And part of me, if you want my hot take of the night, part of me is willing to say I would put Forever up there, maybe even above or near the Burton films. Like, I'm not a Batman Returns fan. I think that movie is way overrated. I think people they shine that turd a ton. And I'm not in love with the original film. I don't hate it. I'm not hating on any of these movies. I'm just willing to say I would rather watch Batman Forever.
I have my Batman 89 Batmobile. If anyone ever wants to know what's over, it's shadowed there, but it's my Lego Batmobile.
I mean, I like the look of it. I like Tim Burton's music. For me it's the music. The music makes Tim Burton's movies good. If you took away the music, I think Tim Burton's movies drop by half their quality because the music makes it work. And so for me, I would rather watch Forever, and that's kind of where I'm at with it at this point.
God bless your heart. God bless your
hot take, man. It's my hot take.
Not to me. I mean, yeah, trust me, I love Marlon Wayans as well. Like I've probably seen The Sixth Man more than anyone has in the history of watching movies. And I'm kind of hurt that we never talked about that when we did sports basketball movies, but because The Sixth Man is fantastic. He also did direct Seal's music video. Joel's right.
Kiss from a Rose, man. That is a jam. That is a jam. So Todd Christian's with me, even though I do like some parts of the Batman Returns. 89 Batman is a terrible film. That's a hotter take than mine. But for me, I feel like more things were working in Forever than in Returns by far. And even in the original film, I'm right in there. Yeah. Don Dizzle's here. How you doing? He said spelling mistakes from time to time. All is good, man. Alicia Silverstone is a cutie. She's just not good in that movie. Although Joey Bag of Sevens is here. He's saying he loves Alicia Silverstone. I don't care what you say about that movie. I don't hate it. I know I'm in the camp. It's not a great movie. But as a 12-year-old kid, like to have Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. I had the action figures. I have the Wayne Manor Batcave. Like I was a target demographic. Right. I'll still watch it. I do a rewatch of all the Batman movies every year. It's not one I skip. I will not skip it. I still nerd out. I have Batman Robin Monopoly at my house, and that's the Monopoly game we play. We don't play regular Monopoly at the Osborne house. We play Batman and Robin Monopoly. Do it. Yeah, I hear this 2.5 of Old Wolf is going up. I like to have it right next to the Immortal Hulk because I think there's something going on here. I don't know. There's a relationship. I grew up with the TV series as well, and Burton's films. I don't hate any of them. I'll happily enjoy all of them. I just am not in love with the Burton films like most people are. I will just say it that way. And all you people that love the Nolan films and hate on Batman and Robin so much, y'all should be thanking and praising Batman and Robin, because if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't get your Nolan films. Because I will legitimately say the Batman, the Dark Knight Rises has a ton of problems that drive me crazy. Yep. That final Nolan film is not all that. It has a ton of problems. Yeah. And I would put Forever above that movie as well. But I mean, you have that because you have the studio, like I said earlier, you had the pendulum swings of, well, we got to make it for kids. Well, it swung too far for Batman and Robin's. Like, we got to bring it back for the fans. They were going to do a year one Frank Miller with what's his face, Darren Aronofsky. Guys, like, this was like Robin's going to be in a room at the mansion eating a rat, like bonkers, like just like not. Like, and the studio's like, okay, maybe we don't want to swing that far. And they're trying to find that balance. And, I mean, it landed on taking elements of some other scripts. But, yeah, I've read more we should move on because I've read more Batman scripts that have not happened. Because I think, obviously, I'm a comic book YouTube channel primarily. So are you. So I definitely wanted to spend time on these movies. And I will say, for those that haven't watched them in a long time, I challenge you to check your HBO Max and give Forever a rewatch. My girls loved it, and I will say they were horrified by Jack Nicholson's Joker, and were like, I don't ever want to see this movie again. But they were far more enjoyed the Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey villains, and thought those movies were hilarious. They also loved being like, hey, that's Drew Barrymore. I've seen her in 50 First Dates. Hey, that's so-and-so. Like, they were spotting actors like, hey, that's Val Kilmer, who I've seen in, oh God, what did they have? What did Tombstone? They see? No, it was not Tombstone. Now I'm really bummed because there was something. Oh, it was Willow. It was Willow. They'd seen him as Mad Mardigan. I was just hoping you're like, oh yeah, MacGruber was my girl's first experience with Val Kilmer. It was Salted Sea. No, it was Top Secret. No. I also we can't talk about Batman Forever, and I can't at least admit, like,
Dag nabbit, as a 10-year-old kid, I had a thing for Nicole Kidman.
Vincent McLean, you are not wrong. Despite the fact that Batman shouldn't be a blonde-haired guy, like, I'm okay with that. And just like Daniel Craig can make a blonde-haired Bond work, Val Kilmer makes a blonde Batman work. They have a few, but not a lot of the live action. Most of the live action stuff's heading over to HBO
Max. They're making that switch over.
I didn't dislike it, but I kept thinking Kilmer from The Doors. Hey, you know, I totally understand that, but I think Kilmer is a very underrated Batman and Bruce Wayne. And I want to say Joel Schumacher claimed later on that Val Kilmer did him two huge favors in his career. Number one was agreeing to play Batman, and number two was agreeing to not play Batman in the sequel. And he said that those were the two, like those two favors cemented their friendship, that he was willing to take the risk and willing to say no the second time.
Yeah, because I feel like if they would have done two, there were definitely issues that they had on set that their friendship would have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now we have the second portion of Joel Schumacher's career, the late 90s and the 2000s. Obviously, his career tapered down pretty quick. He didn't make a film in the last basically 10 years. He made two in 2011, and then that was it.
His last credits, though, were directing TV for first season of House of Cards.
House of Cards. He did work on House of Cards. So he really, the end of 2010, 2011 was the end of his filmmaking career. But but in those 12 years, there were some gems. There were some solid movies in there. Any highlights that you wanted to talk about? Any movies you wanted to bring up?
I know one we'll talk about. We can kind of save that at the end because I know we both watched it. One you made me watch. I don't say that in a bad way. I didn't get to see Tigerland, which I've heard is a really good one from people.
Yeah, Tigerland, if you want a good like war movie, something independent off the path, Tigerland is a really solid war movie. I think it's his only movie in that genre. But yet again, Joel Schumacher goes into another genre. I enjoyed Tigerland. I only saw it one time, but I did enjoy it. So I thought that was a solid movie.
Vincent McLean bringing in the hot take. Amazing.
I don't know that I would call it amazing, but I have seen it. It was solid.
It was fine it's a little too on the nose for me, but amazing is not a word I would use. Phone booth. Let's talk phone booth because
TJ and House to the End are talking phone booth right off the bat.
Again, this is where you see, he brought Colin Farrell back from Tigerland. Tigerland again, make an appearance. I enjoyed the concept of this movie. This works for me as an hour TV show episode rather than a full feature-length movie. If you could present to the studio, hey, I'm going to make a 55-minute movie, and this is it, I think it would have been a lot better of a movie than it was. I enjoyed it, but this is one of those prime examples of where trying to stretch it out, the story to fit the concept. 5-minute.
Yeah, they had a concept. Yeah,
the concept was awesome. The concept was great, and the execution was there. If you could have trimmed the fat of the movie, and it's only an hour 25-minute movie or something like
short movie as it is.
It's already a short movie, which is why I say this is where it has to be. If you could trim the fat and present it to the studio, guys, I get it. It's only 55 minutes, but this is gonna be awesome.
I remember when it was first coming out, Joel Schumacher was talking about how this was his sort of love letter to Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah,
he wanted to create a modern Rear Window, the idea of a character being stuck in one place and having to center a movie that works around that character. And for me, it felt like an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which is probably a TV show that shows my age. But the idea was they would have these 45-minute shows that Hitchcock would present, and they would have these little ideas, these little, thriller moments that would be created into shorts. And this feels like that as well. And I think it's a very good concept and it's well executed. But like you're saying, even at an hour and 20 something minutes, it feels long.
Yeah. And that's where I think if you presented it as like, I don't know how you could, because even as a TV show, it had been too much. But like, yeah, I think you do a disservice sometimes. I know studios wouldn't do it. And again, I like the movie. I think Colin Farrell does a great job in that.
I think Farrell gives two great performances in Schumacher movies with Tigerland and with this. I think he gives two really solid performances from his career.
Right. So yeah, that was one that I enjoyed.
Did you watch his musical? Because, holy buckets, here's another genre we can dive into. Schumacher directed Phantom of the freaking Opera, people.
I did. I don't know if it's a fun fact or not, but I'm a musical nerd. Someone said in the chat, like, hey, you guys should do musicals, or I forget what movie we were talking at some point, and I was like, we were like, no one's gonna want to watch that show as we talk about musicals, but
we would totally be into it.
Like, this would be one that I'm like, all right, I'll talk. So now with that being said, I did not ever get to see Phantom of the Opera in person. So I really enjoyed it just because I was familiar with the music and I thought it was a cool presence of and just a complete different route of, like you said, we've gone from Lost Boys. Well, we went St. Elmo's Fire, Lost Boys, Flatliners, to lull room court dramas, to comic book big budget popcorn movies, to
war movies
to Alfred Hitchcock retrospective movies, to
horror. He finished his career with horror movies for sure.
To now we're back to the musical. Like,
we got Joel and Vic both saying we need musicals. We should talk musicals. So
all right. Yeah, I'm in. So I enjoyed it, and it was fun to rewatch. Gerard Butler, and the lead was
he's not the best singer, but he does have some gravitas.
Right. And the female lead, I'm blanking on her name. She's
Emily Rossum. Is that what it is? Emily Rossum.
Yeah, she's the main actress in Shameless.
Shameless, yeah.
Which I enjoyed the movie from that aspect of just I'm hard pressed to knock any really musicals. Like there's not too many that I don't like, especially in the movies. I know some people don't like. I don't think they translate well, but if I know the music, I'm hooked. So, and I think it's just as a cool, like, Schumacher knows how to make a big movie, and I think that's need with the Phantom. I thought it was really cool. The opening scenes of, like, you've got the auction, of the theater, and how they kind of blend that in of, like, we're taking you back without saying now back in past times. Like, it just is a nice subtle, like, how it's, goes from the cobwebs to the grandioso of theaters. And that's something that I appreciate, that aspect of seeing the theater, because if you've never been to a musical, at least like the theater houses in Columbus here where I'm at, like, man, it's still there. It's a treat. You've got the gold plated painted everything, and they're grand and they're immaculate. So, like, to bring that aspect of it's a musical theater movie into a movie realm, but still paying tribute to the theater aspect of it. I thought it was well done.
So fun fact about John, I did theater in high school and in college, and I acted in musicals. I was in a few musicals. And I have a love for musical theater. I think it's a lot of fun to go and see it in person. And of course, a quality film adaptation, I think, especially nowadays, is very rare.
Yep.
Joel Schumacher knows how to make a quality set, how to light it, and how to shoot it. And I think this movie is a total example of that. This movie looks pristine. Now, I will admit, some of the actors, not the greatest singers in the world. There's a little bit of the Russell Crowe in Les Miserables.
Yeah. Well, you have that. I think that's.
But I think they rise above it, and they're certainly better than Crowe in Les Miserables.
But I think that's what you're always going to have with the musical movies.
Exactly, because you're going to want to put a star in the lead roles, and these actors nowadays are not the same as they were back then, where they would be pigeonholed as this is a musical actor and they'd be famous for their ability to sing and dance.
Right.
And we don't have that anymore. What we have is a Hugh Jackman who can do everything, but he can't be in all the movies.
I think the only way you could do a film adaptation of the musical and it being as big without bringing in big star names would be taking like Hamilton and taking the cast of Hamilton and putting them in because they are more well-known names anyways. But the musical in of itself is bigger as in a current pop culture. I like Les Mis. I mean, I saw it on, on London's Broadway and like, so that's obviously like it stood the test of time, but to see it, like to hit today's day and age, the only way you could get it is you pull like a Lin-Manuel, the guy who plays King George is, so like that would be the one I think that you could take and take the whole cast. Cause like, I know they did that with Rent. They took the whole cast and it didn't.
They did. Yeah. And the version of Rent that I had seen had Doogie Howser,
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris was the lead in the version I saw in LA. And because he replaced the lead in the set, so he was the second person to play the part.
Okay.
And before it went to New York, because it was out here in LA first, and then when they made the film version, they picked the original guy. But I always picture Neil Patrick Harris with the bleached blonde hair and everything.
You're not picturing Joey Fatone.
Well, I would never do that.
I think he replaced Neil Patrick Harris after that.
Oh, did he? Okay, wow.
I'm pretty sure Joey Fatone did. I don't know. So we're off on a tangent of musicals. We can say that for the musical show with Joel and Coach Vic.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the studio system was actors were in their pigeonhole, so that your John Wayne made his westerns, and you just kept him making his westerns, and your singers and dancers would continue to make their musicals. Versus today, musicals are so rare, you need to find an actor who has that talent at the ready. And I feel like, obviously Hugh Jackman does. I love Hugh Jackman. The guy's amazing. But not everybody can do what that guy does.
But I think that's interesting because, like, yeah, they definitely were pigeonholed in the 60s, but we definitely pigeonhole them still. I mean, we've even said on the show here, like, we couldn't, I think Gord was like, I couldn't watch Batman Forever without thinking of The Doors, like,
right.
I think you get that with, that's why you see people, let's talk Jim Carrey. Let's talk 23. Jim Carrey is known for his comedic roles. And that's why, like, he did the departure from his, I saw someone say Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He did 23. He wanted to break out and like, I'm more than what you pigeonholed me in as a comedic actor. So you had that with Robin Williams, did the same thing. He jumped out of, his comedic roles to do Insomnia, to do 1 Hour Photo, to do this movie.
I remember when he was trying to do that in the late 90s with Awakenings and several films where he was trying to play a more serious role, Dead Poets Society or whatever. I think musicals are just a layer deeper, and there's a whole other talent set necessary, and so which is why I think you get fewer of them these days.
Right.
But if I can recommend people to try, branch out, I do think Phantom of the Opera is a higher quality movie in the musicals of these days that you could get. So 2004, I think. And
I think it's still streaming on. I think it's streaming on HBO too as well.
Nice. Maybe they've got all the Joel movies over there. Maybe that's what happened.
They don't. I tried. They definitely don't.
Well, I think sometimes a director works inside of a certain studio, and I think it's possible that he was a Warner Brothers guy, and so all of his Warner Brothers movies maybe are over.
Gotcha.
So I know I want to talk about one more movie, which is the one that I mentioned to you as like a movie that I thought nobody had heard of, or that nobody would really care.
And it's Bad Company with Chris Rock.
and yet
it's been brought up in the chat.
Stay Puft and Gore Vidal bringing up a movie that I think is at least, I'm not going to say that it's among his greatest movies, but I think it's an underappreciated, underwatched movie with two powerhouse performances. And I kindly asked Greg to check it out if he had a chance to see it. And I was curious what you thought.
So, yeah, this was one that when we knew we were doing this, you were like, this probably isn't one that a lot of people have seen. Check it out. And so we'll get into the social commentary aspect of that we did with all his other movies. I will say the acting is phenomenal in the two leads. I think I mentioned it to you in the chat or on another stream at one point. Like this plot line story that ties it all together. It's one where I'm like, it needed to be better. Like there could have been so many ways to bring these two characters together in that moment without this story, without the drug money being stolen storyline. That detracted from the movie for me from that aspect. But the commentary of the movie and the performances by De Niro and Hoffman are fantastic.
Exactly. I think that's exactly my feelings. And I think what drags the movie down is that it's a character movie that tries to be a plot movie. And I've heard writers talk about how movies usually are either character driven or they're plot driven. And a plot driven movie keeps like having incidents that occur to push the story along, versus a character driven movie has characters making choices that spurn the movie on.
Right.
And I think this movie has these outside elements pushing the story that are not needed. And I think if the movie had focused more on the two leads who are great in this movie. So we're talking about a movie called Flawless.
Oh, we didn't talk about it. We didn't say,
I figured it was in Sean's comment, but I just wanted to mention the movie. So I remember seeing this in the theater because I was a De Niro and Hoffman fan, and I heard about this movie. It sounded interesting. Called Flawless, where apartment building neighbors Hoffman and De Niro are at odds with each other. De Niro suffers a stroke where he can't quite speak anymore, and Philip Seymour Hoffman plays the drag queen who lives nearby, who starts to teach him how to speak again through singing.
Yeah, which that just. Again, if they could have gotten there.
Yeah.
They could have gotten there quicker. They could have gotten there a different route.
Yeah.
So that's why Staple's comment is great. It's an average movie from that aspect, but the performances and the commentary of the performances of the issue that you're dealing with of Robert, De Niro's character of, hey, like, I want nothing to do with you, with Hoffman's character of just, to as a guy who's like, he sees it, the drag queen aspect of, and I forget what Hoffman doesn't even like that term when she says it in the film of like, I'm not a drag queen. Like to see that interaction of like, I don't even know you, but I'm going to put it, I'm going to put this barrier between us because of our differences.
Right.
And this is one of the greatest commentaries, which for me that I think that if people took the time to get to know people, no matter what you think, whether it's, whatever spectrum of deep, dark rabbit hole that will get a thumbs down from people if we start talking about it, whatever you think on a certain issue or topic or person or people, like if you just get to step away from the screen, step away from the chat and have a face-to-face conversation with people and live life, experience their journey with them. I mean, I think you see that in Robert De Niro's character and Hoffman's character. Like they're not best friends at the end. They're not. But they have a respect and a friendship for each other through what they went through and understanding, hey, you are a person just like I'm a person. And I think if people, as we as a society do more of that, I think that's what this film was in 1999. That was like, and that's a still relevant social commentary of what we as a society need in 2020.
Well, I mean, I thought it was pretty far ahead of its time, the way it portrayed transgender characters. And I think Hoffman's portrayal is very astute and sensitive. I think the the story between the two actors is well played out, and if it had again focused less on the subplot, I think it would have been dynamic and would have lasted longer. So I'm glad I appreciate that you took the time to check it out.
I did. I'm glad I watched it. I be one that because of the performances and because of the commentary that I think it puts on to makes you think.
And obviously Joel Schumacher as a gay filmmaker, I think he wrote it, right? I'm sure it had a little more significance to him than perhaps some of his other films. And
I almost wonder if like the plot line had to be that he felt the plot line had to be there to draw in people because of the topic. I don't know, like, because it is still 1999 where it was more even taboo at that time to talk about, transgender or the, drag queens or homosexuality. Like that was just more, it was harder to do. So I wonder if he had to like, well, I got to bring people in with this drug thief plot line or people won't give it a chance.
Absolutely. I totally think so. See, Gore Vidal says Hoffman was great in this period. Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Riptown, Mr. Ripley. Yeah, totally agree. So, I mean, we've been an hour and a half. Joel Schumacher obviously has a ton of movies. There are more that we could get to, but I do think he's not remembered, I think, in the same regard that a lot of filmmakers who do this many movies in this many genres should be. I think there's so much quality here.
Right.
We have two more of these that we want to cover before the end of the year. We're looking at Ian Holm next, the Lord of the Rings actor, and we're going to highlight some of his underrated movies. I want to challenge you in the audience if you can find a movie that I really love of his that I know I want to spend a bucket's ton of time discussing.
I love that you say holy buckets all the time on this stream now.
it's part of my vernacular on this show. If you're an Ian Holm fan and you don't mind dark, heavier films, he made a movie called The Sweet Hereafter. It was nominated for writing and directing in 99, I think 98. Great movie, and he is basically the lead character. If you haven't seen Sweet Hereafter, I would recommend or challenge you to see it. I'm going to talk about it a bunch when we talk about Ian Holm.
It's on Prime, isn't it?
I believe it's on Prime with commercials. You can watch it. It's part of the IMDb thing.
Yeah, and we're gonna take the holiday weekend off, so y'all have time to watch with us. Like
we got 2 weeks. We're gonna try to we're gonna skip Thanksgiving week and then come back after. So you got 2 weeks of time, and then we're gonna skip a little time and we're gonna do Kirk Douglas. So we have 2 left to finish out the year. Old Wolf is gonna try to join us for Kirk Douglas. He's catching up on some good Kirk Douglas watching. We both actually wanted to have time before Kirk Douglas because the truth is, I thought I had seen a lot of Kirk Douglas movies, but then I looked at his filmography and it was like,
yeah. So with that being said, because we have this kind of 2 weeks before Ian Holm, we got 2 weeks we'll have like a month before Kirk Douglas kind of, because we're going to space it out. If you have recommendations of like, you guys have to check these movies out. Like we're giving ourselves a little bit more time with just the holidays. We want to be with family and things like that. I mean, I can't rewatch all the Lord of the Rings, like Coach Vic said. Otherwise, that literally will take up all the way up until Christmas, and I don't have that time to rewatch them all. I will. Who am I going to kid? But if you have recommendations, shoot the messages to me on Instagram or John on Instagram, because the chat, like, we love having this interaction with you guys of like, and what you guys recommend and things like that. So if you have stuff of like, you guys got to check out this movie, like, let us know, because if we can do it, we will.
I absolutely love. I think I could do a whole Linklater show. I think maybe we do a filmmaker month or something where we're looking at filmmakers' histories. I think there could be a lot of fun there. I absolutely love those movies.
And John, you want to do a Christmas show where we talk about your favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard, and I'll talk about my favorite Christmas movie, Batman Returns, right?
I'm just excited that we're going to talk about Ian Holm and Time Bandits again.
This guy's going to be like, hey, can we do like a retrospective on like Monty Python movies? Oh, Time Bandits comes up. John's gonna find out who the little kid, what obscure TV show movie he was in, and like, hey, I think we should do something about this director. He's done 2 movies. One's time. Right. No, I mean we know the director.
When John Cleese, we'll talk a little John Cleese or something at some point. 7 Days in May, a great Douglas film and very appropriate. Hey,
see,
there's a bunch of great Douglas films, and I've got a set of like 10 that I'm going to try to power through before we get there, because he was nominated for 3 Oscars, and I've only seen one of the films he was nominated for. So it's like, okay, I guess I got to go check some of these out. We're gonna bounce out of here though for now. Leave your comments or check us on Instagram. Hit us up.
Yep.
We want to get Greg up there, man. He just passed 400. Let's get him to 500. So if you're not subscribed to Greg, click the link down below and sub up his channel, man.
Thank you.
You just dropped a video Friday. I have not checked it out yet. What are you and the wife quizzing this Friday? What were you quizzing?
The video we just dropped, I quizzed her on characters involved with Suicide Squad.
Oh man, I would fail this list. I can already tell.
I don't think you would. Again, because I try to make it broad. So here, I'll give you a little. Then the next week, y'all who are still sticking with us, we shoot our videos in literally we have a night free. We're like, all right, let's shoot 4 videos in a row because
and then you edit for a month.
And then I edit for a month. So then we're doing a blind, she's brought my kids toys and I'm trying to guess the characters by feel for me next week. But then the following week, John, X-Men universe. So in 2 weeks.
She's quizzing you on that.
No, I'm quizzing her, and good golly, you are going to be cringing the whole time.
Buckets. I'm excited for this one. I'm telling you right now. Joel challenged us to do a video, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Can you remember?
So it was I like
your favorite. It's your favorite book in your collection.
Yes.
Yes.
It was something about that. I don't even remember if the video. I need to watch it. I was going to have you talk to us about it on the show tonight.
I'm going to shoot it tomorrow, Joel. I can already tell because I shoot my edited stuff on Sundays, so I'm going to add this to my list. I'll do 2 edited videos next week just for Joel, but he dropped an edited video, and honestly, I'm so bummed he couldn't be here. We will get Joel on when we do videos. Joel is one of the nicest guys. I talked to him a bunch on Instagram. He does a bunch on cosplay. He's in the Geek Fort. I'll be there in the chat tomorrow when he's doing the Geek Fort. If you haven't heard of Joel the Geek, I put the link to his channel down below as well.
I mean, he's one that commented on one of my first couple videos with the missus, and he was like, hey, maybe if you guys could make the pictures big, because we used to, first couple videos, they were like this big right there. He's like, if you could make them bigger for the viewers so we could play along at home. So I was like, yeah, that's great. And so this great idea and insight. So
he knows what he's doing. Absolutely. And you look at how he runs his channel, the views that he gets, this guy, he knows what's up.
Yep. So check him out. So, John, you're on everything, I think. So just turn on YouTube, guys. John will be the first thing that pops up.
I will legitimately say the next few days I'm busy, although I'm taking off a bunch next week for the holidays. I'm on 2 shows tomorrow. I'm reading Sandman Gore. I know you're very excited. I'm reading Sandman for the very first time. I've read the first 6 issues. I'm very excited to talk about them tomorrow. I'm going to read the last 2 in my trade. And then I've got Dungeons and Dragons. Monday night, I'm on with the boy who had 7. He is doing a very special announcement, and I'm going to be on there on his show. And then I will probably do a live stream discussing what he discussed and how it affects my channel and the reasons why I am monetized now and why you can drop super chats on my channel now. So it's all kind of connected to what we're going to be discussing on Monday night on the Boy Who Had 7's channel. And then I'm taking a little bit of break, so I'm not going to be on anything between, Tuesday and the next Dungeons and Dragons a week away. So yeah, D&D is happening on the White Whale Comics channel. There it is. So that's happening tomorrow night and a week from tomorrow because we're still alive. We have not died. My character lost 1 finger, but he is still going strong. So Fingers crossed. He's the Frodo of the story. But other than that, if you haven't checked out my edited video, holy buckets. Great show, Bearded. That's hilarious. Oh, it needed to say buckets. It just needed to say
I know.
If you haven't checked out my edited video that I dropped this week, I thought it was pretty funny. There's some funny little jokes in there, but that I dropped on Thursday, and you can check it out. This is very meta. I agree.
It is.
We will see you all back here in 2 weeks when we're talking Ian Holm movies. So until then, have a nice night.